Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about all the books that I read in July. I read a lot of books in July. Not a great reading month. And about half of them are library books and I need to return them in the next few days. So it's like, I need to talk about these books. So for July, I read 14 books. 2 were audiobooks. I didn't write it down. I think I DNF'd 2 books. I did not reread any books, even though I wanted to. I did not read any for my 2026 TBR, and I only gave 1 5-star in July. For this first batch of books, I did a designated reading vlog on these for Summerween, so I'm going to speak about them very briefly. The first one that I read for Summerween was Lucy Foley's The Paris Apartment. I feel like people either loved or hated this. I wasn't really sure if I was going to be a Lucy Foley fan, but I wanted to try it out, wanted to see where I fell. With this book, I did not like this book. I gave this 2 stars. Very forgettable thriller, in my opinion. And there was also quite a few love scenes. I'm trying to remember what happened in this book. It was very forgettable. But in this book, we're following Jess, who is looking for her brother who just moved into this like really nice apartment in Paris. And she's gonna like go stay with him. Yeah, and he is missing and she's looking for him and she's trying to figure out where he is and she's like meeting with the people from this apartment complex. And things seem kind of weird with these people that live in this apartment. Because everyone's a neighbor, everyone's a suspect, and everyone knows something they're not telling. I don't recommend this book. It felt kind of icky to me. And I did not think it was memorable and not very thrilling. So I did not like the first book that I read for Summerween, but I read this. I moved the camera slightly. The next book that I read was Parasite. This was not a part of Summerween by Mira Grant. I was so disappointed by this book because I love her writing. I have 3 of her other books. The last book that I read from her was Into the Drowning Deep, which was very good. Read that for Summerween. I would have rather reread that than read this. I had such high hopes for Parasite. This is a book set in the future where all of our immune systems are kind of messed up because we've become so clean that now we get sick really easily. Like we've kind of messed up our immune systems because we've made everything so clean, so sterile, sanitized, clean. So now people get these tapeworms, these genetically modified tapeworms put into them, and it helps to fight off disease. It helps with a myriad of things. And of course, it does not go very well. These parasites start to take over their host. This book is so incredibly long for what this is. This is a horror about parasites taking over people. This took forever to get there. And I know that Mira Grant's books are bigger. Like her horror books, they're chunky. But this was so boring. Like so much of the beginning of the book was our protagonist speaking to her therapist because of something that happened. I don't even remember. But the like exciting bit was towards the end. So I know maybe book 2 will be more exciting, but this was too long. This should have been, how long is this? This is almost 500. It's 500 pages. This should have been, I don't know, 150 pages to 200 pages shorter. It is gross because, I don't know, worms inside of people, that's kind of gross. And I kind of liked that, but this is the worst Mira Grant that I've read. I have almost purchased the second book a few times because I was like, I'm going to love this series. It's going to be so good. And it was not. I don't recommend this book, even though the cover is so cool and the concept was creepy and gross. No, it was too long. I then read Necrology by Meg Ripley. This was for Summerween. This is a really cool cover. I love the spine on the spine. This is a historical fiction horror about like the Salem witch trials, magic. The like leader of the like witches in an area decided to give up their magic in exchange for, being left alone They can't use magic so they can't use magic because they like sign a contract saying that they wouldn't. But the leader of the witches, I know that's not what they were called. She hopes that in the future her daughter and her daughter's daughter will like bring magic back and that maybe it'll be different in their time. Then we jump to the future, a few hundred years, and now we're following a group of orphans that all have interesting names, like Bunny. Whitetail is the person who's taking care of them. She's turning into a deer. They all play this like magic game and like where they cast spells, and the woman who's taking care of them, Whitetail, who's turning into a deer, is now going to trial because she used magic when she was not supposed to, and now she's going to go to trial, and they're going to like make sure that she hangs or goes to prison because they're going to make sure that she stops using magic. And we're following our protagonist, Bunny, I think is her name. The Rabbit is the little girl that we're following, and she's conflicted about like, is magic wrong? Because that's what everyone is telling her, but she's also seen the beauty in magic and doesn't think that magic should be stripped from you because like all women like have magic, but it kind of has to be brought out, it kind of has to be sparked. And the point of this book is like trying to strip women of their magic and telling them that it's wrong. It's a very feminist book. It is beautiful in how it was written and how the magic is like very much tied to the earth and the dirt, and like how all these kids have these like animal names is to further like tie them into nature. I gave it 3 stars. It was not, I feel, the best summer-ween book for me. I thought it was going to be more spooky. To me, it was just fine. I don't feel like this was extremely memorable. There were things about it that I liked, but I kind of felt like okay about it. I gave it 3 stars. I was expecting it to be more spooky. If this book ruined Jane Eyre for me, I'm going to be so upset because I'm going to read Jane Eyre soon, and I did not know that this is a retelling of Jane Eyre. This is The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. Again, a like thriller author I've never read from before, like Lucy Foley? I don't think I've read another Lucy Foley name. Now I'm like questioning myself. But I've definitely never read from this author. This is about a woman who walks dogs. She works for these rich people. She steals from them. And this man in this neighborhood catches her eye. He's a younger man in this neighborhood of like people that are all married and already have kids. And he's like single and she's very intrigued by him. And he's very handsome and young, and she starts walking his dog and they build a relationship. But there is something that, which I mean is in the title, that has her questioning him, the people around them. She's trying to figure out what's going on. I didn't think this was good. I really hope that Jane Eyre is better. And I mean, obviously that's a classic. This is a thriller. I don't know. The like twist at the end did not surprise me at all. I did not think this was worth my time. There are such better thrillers and I didn't like it. I kind of liked the end, like how the end wrapped up, but this just felt like a waste of time. So I did not like this. I gave it 2 stars. So Summerween did not go like super well, if you can't tell. I then read Mira by Nikki Gonzalez that has a very cool cover. This one actually did feel Summerween appropriate because this takes place in Florida, in like the marshes, in the heat. There are scenes that felt very summer-esque and very like humid and icky. So that I appreciated. But this is very much about obsession, changing yourself depending on who you are with. The kind of boundary or the fine line between friendship and something more than that. Being young and making poor choices to maybe impress others or to be perceived a certain way. We're following Ingrid, who has been invited to go to Mira's house or like summer house. She's going to get married and they're going to like have a summer get together before that happens. And this house, which I did like, you kind of had to get further into the book, but there are weird things going on within this house, which I appreciated. But she sees that her friend has like changed a lot. She's kind of like, where is my friend? And it jumps back and forth between the present day and then when they were like teenagers making poor choices. And that's what I didn't like. Things that they did when they were younger, like made me upset or made me feel like some stuff they did was just kind of gross. And I know that was the point. Like I don't know. I didn't like it. Some of the things that I read, I was like, I wish I hadn't read that. I just didn't like it. And that ruined the book for me. I wish we just stayed in present day, or maybe in the like past, they didn't do some things that they did. So I did like the end though. The end, I was like, okay, I appreciate that ending, but it was the flashbacks that I didn't like. So I ended up giving this 2 stars. I give a lot of 2 stars this month, but very cool cover. I feel like someone else might appreciate this more. I just kept thinking of my daughter, and if she did some of the things that these girls did when they were younger, that would just be so terrible. So that's what ruined it for me. So I then read a very different book. I read No One Gets Out Alive by Adam Nevill. This book is a ride. This was so disturbing. The book starts off with our protagonist, Stephanie, who is looking for an apartment. She needs a very inexpensive place. So she finds a place for like $40 a month. Obviously, it's a very run-down place that's like awful, and the guy who owns it seems super sketchy and gross, and she's like, oh, I just need a place. But she stays there like one night, hears all these things, sees certain things, and she's like, I cannot stay here. I will try to live with a friend because this place is so awful. And this is about her getting trapped within this apartment complex, money she owes, things that she's seen. It's like a tangled web. She gets herself in a lot of trouble with these people, and she like can't escape. I think that the message in this book was good. This book is about how women can get themselves kind of trapped within a system that is very wrong, and they just cannot escape. And they owe money, they feel that they can't do anything else, and they're just trapped in this awful life. Our protagonist never thought she would be like in this situation, but it just all kind of happened so fast. So you start this book thinking it's going to be like a haunted house where women have been treated very poorly in this house. And then there are also women currently being treated awful in this house. There are women that came from other countries that were told, you come to this country, you're going to make all this money, you're going to have this great life, and they trust the men that bring them over, and then they're trapped in an awful life. Then it gets so dark, and there's like an evil being in this book, and I was like, whoa, where did this come from? This book took like 3 different tones. It was like haunted house, terrible things happening to these women. Then it was like supernatural and really spooky, and then the end got very bloody and gory and like revenge. It was quite the ride. Like I said, this book, I gave it 4 stars because I do feel like this was a good book, and I think this might actually be a movie, but this felt like a movie, a very scary movie. But I don't know that I would recommend it because I would check all the trigger warnings. This is very disturbing. So that was the next book I read. I DNF'd a book for Summerween, and I'm glad that I did. I got too far into this before I decided to DNF. I DNF'd Audition by Murakami. Now, I do think that this probably would have had a very satisfying ending, but this was so incredibly gross, so descriptive. There were things that I just did not want to read about, and I figured that was going to be the case, but it was so much worse than I thought. In this book, Our protagonist is a widower, but he's still relatively young, and his son is like, you should find a wife. And so his friend has this idea that they're going to have an audition for a fake movie. That way he can like see a bunch of different women for this role, and he can pick one. And he does. And things are a little bit strange with her, but he's infatuated with this woman, thinks that she's perfect, like she's beautiful, all of this stuff. But things that happen between them, I did not, I had to stop. So I bet this had a very satisfying, bloody kind of revenge at the end, but I did not want to get there. And it's so short, but gross. Then I read one good book for Summerween. I read Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. This was so good. I would like to own a copy of this for my collection if I found it used one day. This, it was just so good. I wish I'd just gotten a few more Agatha Christie's for Summerween because this made me want to read more of her books. I know that she's like the queen of mystery, and I would assume, I feel like this is her most famous novel. And I don't really want to say what happens in this book. I think you can kind of guess by the title. A group of people go to this house and things happen. The end I thought was genius. I loved this book. I figured I was going to love this book. That's why I saved it for the end of Summerween. I thought like maybe I should start off with a good book, like one I knew was going to be good. And I'm so glad I waited until the end so Summerween ended on a good note. Very much recommend. It's not too scary. It's not gross. It's just a really good mystery with, I thought, a very good ending. So that was the last book that I read for Summerween. This book, I forgot that I tabbed part of this book. I'm going to take all these tabs out. I read The Aspect of Essence by Samantha Amstutz. I really thought I was going to love this, and I enjoyed it for a while. And then just, it became like every other romantasy and I got bored and did not continue to tab. In this book, our protagonist is half elf. And her like lot in life is to go marry a full-blooded elf, a pure-blooded elf, and to have their children because elves cannot have children with other full-blooded elves. They have to have children with like humans or like half-bloods. There's something wrong with their genetics. And our other protagonist is trying to figure out what the issue is. And she's totally fine. She's like, okay, I'm going to go to the elf land and I'm going to marry whoever and like a rich person or a king or prince and have their children. She's happy with that. But right before that happens, she's actually sent to an academy because the wraiths, I think that's what they are starting to become more of a problem than they previously were, and they need everyone to go train to be able to fight off these wraiths. The powers that they have are actually pretty cool. If you're an elf, you have essence, which is your power, and you can have like, I think there are 5 different abilities. And she's at a disadvantage because she has not been with the elves, because the elves have like concealed their powers from humans, but she's going to train. She has her mentor, who is the guy who's going to try to figure out what is up with the elves' genetics that they can't breed together. And then the like prince, who is like the like bad guy that's going to train her, who I think is the love interest. And then we're also following a wraith because I think that the wraiths are going to be misunderstood, but I could be wrong. Like I said, I enjoyed maybe 2/3 of this book. Towards the end, I was just like, I just really don't care. I don't foresee myself continuing the series. I would rather read a Brandon Sanderson or a John Gwynne or any other better fantasy. So I do think this could work for someone who loves romantasy more than me, because I think that the world building is actually decent, but just not for me. I will be taking the tabs out and I'm going to sell this eventually because has this been picked up? This is for sure the indie edition. I don't know if it's changed, if this has been picked up or not. I know that there are 3 books in the series now, and yeah, I do think this could work for someone, just did not work for me. I gave this 2 stars. Then I read Land by Maggie O'Farrell. I don't have the book. This book, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to describe this book. This book is insane. We're following a family, a man who is like a mapper. I don't think there's a specific name, but he maps land. And this is going to be hard to describe. He encounters this body of water, this like small pond. That's not what it is. And he has changed since then. His son, he kind of, I don't know, goes insane. And his son has to kind of take over for him. He continues to map this land out because they need the money to take home to their family. So we're following this family and all the tragic things that happen to this family. At one point, I thought, like, is anything good going to happen in this book? I was feeling a little exhausted because of all the tragedy. It was so exhausting. So we follow them when they were like children and then when they're older, and just like the paths that these children's lives took after this thing happened to their father and like changed their lives. This water is like ancient and has certain powers that it will like grant you what you need, not necessarily what you want, something to that effect. The water was confusing to me. We never really understand this thing, this like well, or it's not a well, but this water, what happens there is not fully explained. But we are following this family, these 4 children, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, these 4 children as they grow up and try to find jobs, try to make money, kind of all get separated. And then like I said, it is a hard book to explain, and maybe you should just go in blind. It is sad and a tough read. I think my favorite part of this book was the flashback to the father's past with their mother. That was my favorite part of the book. There were a few scenes that made me gasp because I was shocked. So that I felt was a good part of the book to like make me feel like, oh my gosh, like did that just happen? But I feel that this is probably going to be in the Goodreads Choice Award nominees list. I bet it's going to be a lot of people's favorite for this year because I feel like everyone's loving this book. I do think it was good. I gave it 4 stars, but there was just something about it that I could not grasp, but it was not a 5 for me, and maybe it's because I could not understand the water. I don't know. The like things that were not explained, I did not like that. I wanted it explained, and I know that it's not supposed to be explained, but I wanted it explained. Yeah, go into this book expecting a lot of tragedy, a lot of just like nothing good happening to this family. But it was beautiful. I do think she's a good writer, and I did enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. So I think I need to move a little bit faster. I finished The Luminaries by Susan Dennard. This is also a part of a series. Oh, yeah, I did not like this book. I gave this book 1 star, and I don't even remember this book. This is a dark academia. Oh, yeah, okay. Our protagonist wants to be a part of the Luminaries. Their family has kind of been like shunned because of something their father did. Also, I think the names are really weird. He's called a Diana. And then the houses in this book, they're like Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I don't know. I was like, what is up with these names? And she has to do this trial to try to become a luminary. And then their family could like stop being shunned and they could join their group of people that's trying to protect the mortal land. But I didn't think the trials were very good. I didn't think that our protagonist was anything special. A very forgettable book because I don't remember much about this book. I'm pretty sure early on in this book I was like, yeah, I'm not going to continue this series for sure. And I thought it was, some things that were written in this book were just kind of strange. And then like not even explained. Like, why are they called Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? I don't know. And then trials, when done well in a book, can be so exciting. They were not done well in this book, so just don't read it. This has a cool cover. And I just think this is not a good book. It's YA fantasy. Yeah, 1 star. I then read Ripe by Sarah Rose Etter. This is a good book. This is a tough book. It is sad. It is dark. Our protagonist is depressed and going through changes in her life. She has a boyfriend that doesn't treat her well. She works at this very sought after job in Silicon Valley in like California, but she doesn't have a lot of money like a lot of the people working at this company. She thinks that the people that she works for are pretty slimy. They're asking her to do illegal and unethical things, and she's kind of like, should I do these things? She becomes pregnant, and it is not a very good situation. She has a very tough relationship with her mother. Her mother did not treat her very well as a child, expected a lot from her, never really saw her and listened to her. Her daughter went to her telling her basically, I'm depressed, I'm sad all the time. And her mother really just was like, don't be sad, you're fine, get over it. And she's still dealing with that like rejection, and yeah, it's sad. In this book, she has a black hole that follows her everywhere, and it will shrink or grow depending on who she's with or what she's doing. And as the book progresses, the black hole gets larger and larger. There are things about this book that I don't necessarily align with. I will say that. That's why this was not a 5-star. I do think that this was good, heavy, so check the trigger warnings. The end was interesting because it is kind of an open-ended ending. You can kind of choose your ending, which I thought is interesting in a book, what you think happens to the protagonist. But I would say maybe I would recommend this. I don't know. It's very heavy. It's sad. It's dark. And like I said, just a few things in this book I don't align with, but I appreciate what she did in this book. I feel like it made an impact on me, and I do think it was good. I gave it 3.5 stars. I read Blood on Snow. This is a translated work by Jo Nesbø, a Norwegian author. This is about a hitman who is sent to kill his boss's wife because she's cheating on him. He sees, he follows her, sees what's going on, and he sees that it is more than what the boss is telling him. So he decides to help her instead. I think the book was too short for us to really get to know our characters. I think that this needed to be longer, even though I don't feel like I was super invested in the story where I feel like, oh, I wish this were longer. After I finished it, I was like, I feel like I didn't know any of these people because it's so short. It's like 150 pages with huge font. This is a large print. So I just kind of felt like, what happened in this book? It was fine. It needed to be longer, and I didn't think it was great. I gave it 2 stars. Things happened too fast. It was kind of weird. Then I read A Carley Fortune. I read This Summer Will Be Different. I keep trying with her books because I really loved Every Summer After. I'm confused now because they changed the name for the show, which I don't understand. They changed it to Every Year After, and I wonder why they did that. Yes, Every Summer After, which was her debut novel, which I thought was so good. Like, that book I think about often. I think it had so much emotion, so much heartache. I won't talk too much about that book, but that book made me want to read more of her books, and I've read 2 since then. This one I thought was terrible. Something that I like about Carley Fortune's books is that they all take place in Canada, like on a lake. It's like on every cover, this like body of water. This one takes place on Prince Edward Island, which is the only thing this book had going for it. Our protagonist, Lucy, is going to Prince Edward Island because her best friend, who is getting married in a week, has fled there to her hometown. And she tells Lucy, like, you have to come be with me here. And she won't say why she fled. She's getting married in a week. And Lucy's like, are you sure? Because you're like about to get married. I'm like planning your wedding. I'm making her flowers. And she's like, yes. So she goes to Prince Edward Island. Her friend wants to have just like a week of being there with her friend and her brother. Lucy and her brother have been together. They like hooked up years ago, and the sister doesn't know. And her sister made her promise her a long time ago that she would not fall in love with her brother. So that is like the conflict in the book. That's like the whole thing in the book is that she's trying not to fall in love with her brother, and they're keeping it from the sister. And we're trying to figure out what is up with the friend. Beatrice? B? I think it's B. This book was so lame. Lazy writing, because Prince Edward Island is like where Anne of Green Gables took place, and Anne of Green Gables was referenced in this book so much. Like, that is what made the book like nostalgic. And if you have to lean that heavily on another book to make your book interesting, that just seems like really lazy writing to me. It was like all Anne of Green Gables, to where like their love story just felt like whatever. I like didn't buy their like love. It didn't feel real to me. It didn't feel heartfelt, or their like love story felt just very whatever. And then the whole like conflict, the like when it was resolved was like, we read all of this for that. That's not a big enough deal for me to read this book. It just felt so like vanilla, this book. And I was really surprised. I've read another book by her, and that one I still didn't really like, but had more heart to it than this one that just felt so like empty. That's how this romance felt. It felt so empty of anything. So I gave it 1 star. I thought it was very bad. I still want to read her latest book. I'm hoping that one's better, but yeah, I just thought it was really poorly written. It needed spices in there. Not spice. It needed salt. Needed some flavor. Then the last book that I read, which I'm very proud of, this feels like an accomplishment. I read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. This is thick. This is a very long book. And I was determined to finish this in 5 days. I finished it in 8 because this is not an easy book. This is about 2 magicians trying to bring magic back to London. They have different ideas of how that should be done. They're very different men. One of them is the more reserved magician who wants to like follow these rules. He loves books. He's very not social, and that's Mr. Norrell. And then Jonathan Strange is the younger, more ambitious, willing to do maybe things he shouldn't to bring back magic. They are apprentice and teacher turned enemies. I don't really know. This book is hard for me. I have mixed feelings about this book, because I do think that it is a good book and that there are some cool scenes in this book. I will think fondly of this. However, I don't feel like I saw this book. I feel like I needed more description or something. I don't know why, but I feel like I could not see this like a movie. And for as long as it was, I wish I could have. There were scenes that even were like really cool, and I just felt like I can't see what's going on. I wish I could visualize what is happening. And maybe not for the whole book. There were a few scenes that I feel like I could see, but for the majority of this book, I couldn't see what was going on. I was very like invested in the book. I annotated, I dog-eared, I wrote notes because I really wanted to absorb the story. But it was difficult. Apparently, Susanna Clarke wrote her sentence style like Jane Austen and Dickens, so in an older style, which made this challenging. This felt like a classic. This feels very much like a classic, which is not a bad thing, but just does it is challenging. It is challenging to read. This isn't, they don't necessarily speak how we speak like right now, because this takes place in the 1800s. And a lot happens in this book. So, and the characters, I feel like there were quite a few men in this book, at least I think, and I would get them confused. But I feel like the book is just too long, personally. There were scenes that would happen. I was like, ooh, like the magic is happening. And I would get excited. So then I would persevere. I would push through. And then it would be a while of not much happening. But then there would be like another like magic thing happening. I just wish it were shorter. Now, I am proud of myself that I finished this humongous book. Like, I kind of, in that way, I'm kind of glad that it's super long. But I feel like I would have enjoyed the story more had it been like 300 pages shorter. But I read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and I gave this 4 stars. But I will say this gave me a lot of confidence to potentially very soon read some chunky classics. That's like the best part of me reading this book, is that I feel like it gave me a lot of confidence. Like, I was like, if I can read this, I can read I could read classics. So my biggest disappointment was the aspect of essence. I thought I was going to really love that book. The worst book was The Summer Will Be Different. That book was so bad. My biggest surprise was No One Gets Out Alive. Not necessarily because I loved it so much, but because I was not expecting what happened in that book to happen. I felt very surprised by that book. And then my best read was And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. That was the best book I read in July. All right, I'm done. I hope you enjoyed my July wrap up. I read so many books. August is already going better than July, so I'm very glad about that, because July was rough. Not gonna lie. I did not enjoy the majority of the books I read in July, which is disappointing, but it's okay. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you are currently reading or what you read in July, or if you're surprised by any of my ratings of these books. Are you also reading this year? Because I feel like people are reading this year. Or if you don't know what to comment below, comment the sun emoji. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.